and welcome back to the investment series, The Secrets of the Money Masters. Today, I'll be paying a visit to Jude Bolton, ex-AFL star and loving father of two little girls. Jude's about to get a money masterclass he won't forget, as he realises his financial future could be in jeopardy. I'm here to diagnose Jude on what he needs to unlearn about money. Along the way, he'll be assigned his own money master, Andrew Clifford, the CEO of Platinum Asset Management, and a financial planner to really kickstart his financial makeover.
I grew up in country Victoria in a place called Ballarat. Sport was such a big part of our life, so much so that my dad laid a concrete cricket pitch in the backyard for the three boys so we could play till all hours of the night. I started playing football as a child. It was just ingrained in me from a young kid to be able to always compete and always trying to beat my brothers. That fighting and scratching throughout is what allows you to have a long career, and I was lucky enough to play for 15 years at a quality club. You wish you could just bottle that moment when you win a premiership on the big stage. To have that elation and moment on the MCG is something that I'll always remember. Growing up, probably if I had some money, I'd spend it, and I think that's probably the way it happened. Going into footy life, I think you're pretty blessed to do what you do, and the guys get paid really well, and so that sort of flippancy a little bit with money rather than saving, and I think that's probably a little bit of a flawed character in that sense. You don't regret some of the experiences that we have, but I certainly wasn't the best saver, I guess, as a player.
Jude's got some regrets about what he's spent in the past. It will be great to find out more about how he really feels about money. So, Jude, when you got the call to say, come on this money makeover show, what ran through your head?
I think it was a little bit alarming, to be honest, to think about your future self and putting steps in place to get there. It's something I've never really pondered at all. So I knew it was going to be confronting, and my wife knew it was going to be pretty confronting for me.
It's pretty clear to me that Jude's spending has been an issue for both him and his wife. It looks like he'll need to learn new ways to overcome this. Now's the time to start thinking about what are the things you really want versus things you're used to being able to get, because you've earned really good money.
Yeah, I think that's probably been the transition from footy outside. Is just I've got to start sacrificing a bit more and, actually working out what I need, what I don't need, but, thinking about the kids and where we want to get to. I think probably feel like many Aussies is probably treading water at the moment rather than actually putting things in place to move forward.
And tell me about your mum and dad, what you learn about money from them. Like, did they teach you about savings? Did they teach you to be sensible? Did they spend up? Tell me about that.
Probably got a little bit of spending habits from my folks, and I think they just always wanted the best for us as kids. We never grew up with abundance of things around. It was more around abundance of love, and I think they probably weren't the best savers and things like that, mum and dad, and I've inherited a little bit of that in a sense as well. So, I don't think about our budget and things like that, and I probably need to put a lot more time and effort into that.
Yeah, but spreadsheets and budgets are boring, and I find that's why most people fail. I think the secret is, painting a picture of what you want and moving towards it, rather than saying, I can't have all that stuff.
It also takes focus, and I think Lynette's always like, you're like shiny, something move on there. Like she wants to make sure we're really focused in on, making sure we're not treading water. I guess that's the main thing.
So I know you really wanted to renovate the house more. It's a gorgeous house, but I understand you want a garage. Every man wants a garage.
down the track, I'd love to put a garage or something like that as well. But we love travelling as well. So
Jude's first financial goal is to finish the renovation on their house. This includes a garage, the pool, and a new bathroom. He also wants to keep travelling with his family and sharing experiences. And Jude's told me that he and Lynette want to send their daughters to a private high school. 3 big goals that all have a price tag. Interestingly enough, Jude hasn't mentioned how he's going to pay for his retirement.
There's always that perception that, sports people and things like that do really well, and absolutely been very lucky through my career, but made a lot of errors in that side of things as well.
Now finish this sentence for me and complete the whole sentence. My biggest regret around money is?
My biggest regret around money is probably not saving the way I should have and sticking to a budget throughout. I think pretty flippant as a young man, but had a lot of wonderful experiences as well.
And would you trade that?
Never.
Okay. So is it a regret at all, really?
Oh. No, but when you're looking at and trying to set yourself up for family, I think, of probably what's been wasted over the journey. It is what it is. I think it's a regret.
And biggest hope. So your biggest hope for money and you in the future is?
My biggest hope for money and my future around that is just having health and happiness with my family. I think, being able to have set up so we can really enjoy retirement with the family and be able to travel when we want to and do the things we want to love.
I've sent Jude outside to take a look at my book so he can see how others have planned for their financial future. I've also had him take the quiz on my website, and as I suspected, desire was the pillar Jude needed to unlearn. I'll be able to brief his financial advisor and his money master on this so they can incorporate his unlearning lessons into his financial plan and masterclass. Next time Jude gets a masterclass he'll never forget with the CEO of Platinum Asset Management, Andrew Clifford. I'll also bring in Jude's new financial advisor, Mario Bardella. He'll start to put the numbers to the test to see if Jude can have what he wants now and prepare for the future.
This is a very long game, investing. We need to be thinking about 5, 10, 20 years out. That is the way we get the great results from investing, by having a plan for the long term.
Today, we're looking at the financial life of AFL Hall of Famer Jude Bolton and trying to figure out if we can get his spending habits in check. I'm joined by my expert Debbie Blakey, who's the CEO of Hester Super Fund, and by Jennifer Porter, who's the founder of Bloom Advisory. Well, welcome to you both. And credit cards. Jude admitted he had a bit of a problem with it. I have to admit I've been a bit of a spender on credit in past lives. Jen, how often do you see this happen in relationships?
Look, we see it a lot. There's so many of our clients who come to us with debt that's just not being paid off every single month, which is how we define a problem with credit cards.
Really?
Yeah.
If you don't pay off every month, you think there's a problem?
Every month, you've got a problem.
Okay.
Yeah, because it means you're spending more than you actually earn on a monthly basis, which means it's going to build and build and build, and at some point, it's going to become a big problem.
And Debbie, tell me, Hester has advisors working with members all the time. How often does credit card debt come up in financial plans?
Oh, I think it's always there. And the really important thing is to think about debt as good debt or bad debt.
Yeah.
And, we all know there's some good debt, like a mortgage to buy a property, etc. But credit card debt is bad debt. It has high interest rates, and it's normally you paying it off. If you're delaying paying it off, you've long since enjoyed what you bought with it.
Yeah,
So
well,
it
that's
is
the hard
bad
part,
debt.
isn't it? At the time you go, ooh, I got this thing and it's amazing, and then that thing's passed and you're still paying for it.
Exactly.
And it's easy to get. Credit card debt's easy. You can easily get a couple of cards with a few $1,000s on them, and before you know it, you actually have some decent debt that you have to deal with.
Yeah, look, I know Jude said to me he regrets not saving, and credit cards, he just wasn't thinking about, I'm going to get that and put it on the card.
It.
I've done that, so it's not like, wow, that's terrible that he did it. But how do you stop people in that habit, Jen, when you're doing financial plans?
Yeah, so it's different for everybody. I think in Jude's case, it seemed like that he didn't probably have some goals set that were taking the money. So we say that if you take the money out of the bank account first and allocate it elsewhere, then what's left over could be your discretionary spending. You can spend that however you want. We don't question it. We don't judge you. Knock yourself out. But allocate money to debt, super, kids, all the good things first, and then whatever's left over. The trouble with the credit card is that's separate to that discretionary amount that's in your bank account. So if you have a credit card, you can way overspend that monthly amount without even realising it. So how to stop it? You can stop using the credit card. That's not all that practical because it's so much easier these days to go out and tap when you haven't got any cash. But having low limit credit cards is a good way. Don't have a credit card with, a $5,000 limit if you're allowed to spend $1,000 a month. Keep it to $1,000.
So get that rejection when you're trying to buy something.
Yeah,
You go, I
face the
can't
humility,
afford this.
or think about it as you're tapping. Think, am I going to be able to pay for this, whatever I'm buying? And just be conscious about your spending. I think that's one of the really big things. We just tap everything now. I tap everything I purchase. I don't really carry that much cash. But for some of our clients, we actually say to them, don't use credit cards at all, use cash. Because then you know that once your wallet is empty, there's nothing left. You have to wait till the next payday before it refills again.
Well, look, Australians are pretty renowned for instant gratification. You know, we've got tapping our credit cards. I mean, the superannuation system works because they take it before you get your hands on it, right? Talk to me about how Australians would fare in retirement without that force taking it away first.
Well, I think it's a huge thing that you do have that 9.5% out of your pay. If you're employed, of course. If you're self-employed, you're having to create some sort of discipline yourself. But if you're employed, you do have that forced saving. But I think it's very important to actually unpack your relationship with money and unpack what are your triggers. You know, we're talking about people spending on credit cards where they maybe would rather not be spending. What are the triggers that actually cause good behaviour or bad behaviour in terms of spending? Incredibly important to do that, and especially in the context of a relationship. You know, thinking of Jude and his relationship, because ultimately you're trying to find alignment in terms of your financial goals and the things that you value and your vision for finances. And you won't find that alignment if you don't really understand what your relationship with money is. So I think that's where it starts.
Well, it's hard though, because Jude's a spender and Lynette, his wife, is an ex-financial planner actually, and she's a saver. I mean, how often do you see friction in relationships where, you know, one's a spender, one's a saver? Who wins?
I think it's like anything else in a relationship. It's about good communication, and it's probably about understanding each other. I mean, why is he more of a spender and why is she more of a saver? And I think you work together to find that alignment. But you know, one of the real issues, Vanessa, is we find it difficult to talk about money. And you know, we're not brought up talking about money. So, you know, you suddenly expect in a relationship people to be honest and open and transparent talking about money, but we haven't learned those skills through our life. I think it's incredibly important to be comfortable talking about money. What are the things we value? What are our vision?
Absolutely.
Yeah, look, I agree. And one of the questions I always ask people, because I'm trying to figure out, is what do they need to unlearn? What are the things that they're doing with money that they need to unlearn that behaviour? But what did you learn from your parents?
That's it.
Because you're right, people don't talk much about money, but you sure as a child observe the relationship with money that your family has, parents or provider, carers, whatever it is. And Jude said, yeah, mum and dad weren't that good with money, plenty of love, but you know, not much talk around money, and they probably spent more than they should have. I mean, how do you counsel couples and relationships when it comes to unlearning behaviours from childhood?
It's really difficult because often you've got a couple, so they've got their own individual habits with regard to money before they come together as a couple. So you have to then negotiate a whole new playing field for the two of them. So you have to figure out where they came from and then have a path that they both agree on to go forward. And that's really tricky because sometimes, like in the case of Jude, a spender and a saver coming into the same household, you have to find aligned goals, things that they agree on first. And then once they agree, so, you know, children's education, paying down the mortgage, doing renovations, all of those sorts of things they agree on. So let's do those, let's plan for those, which means other things have to stop to allow those things to happen. And just by that very nature that you have to stop something to start something else, you're getting on the same page. So Jude's spending could not continue the same way if he wants to send his kids to private school, if he wants to renovate the house, and if they want to reduce their debt. And long-term debt is just as much of a problem as short-term debt, like a credit card, which is not necessarily always short-term debt. You know, at Jude's age, you want to be thinking about your retirement age. You want to align your mortgage with when you plan to retire at the very latest. You don't want to be retiring when your mortgage has still got 10 years to go. You know, that's not realistic. So I think, you know, this credit card problem that perhaps he's had, once he gets these new habits of allocating funds to his written down goals that he and his wife agree on, I think he'll have a lot less problems.
Okay.
And Jennifer, just to pick up on that, I think, you know, you're talking about time frames. It's so important to have the different time frames, the short term, medium term and the long term. And
you need some wins.
You do. You need to feel you're doing something for now,
That's it.
But also have that long term strategy. And, you know, of course, that's where super comes in.
Exactly.
And sometimes that gets forgotten for people who want that instant gratification that
it's
you're
actually the
talking
first
about.
thing that gets forgotten,
Gets
I
forgotten.
think. Certainly
Well,
extra contributions, yes.
we've got to get Jude getting his instant gratification and
No
his
more
long-term goals met, and I think we will help him get there.